Debbie Ryan grew up in Titusville and attended the Hopewell Valley Regional Schools, graduating with the Hopewell class of 1971. She went on to attend Ursinus College, where she majored in physical education, graduating from Ursinus with her bachelor's degree in 1975. While at Ursinus, she starred on their women's basketball team, playing point guard throughout her tenure on the team. In the fall of 1975, she enrolled in the master's program at the University of Virginia, completed that program in only 2 years, graduating with her master's degree in physical education in 1977. During her 2 years as a graduate student, she served as an assistant coach of the women's basketball team under the head coach Dan Bonner. She was appointed the head coach of the women's team prior to the start of 1977-78 season, becoming only the third head coach of the women's basketball in the school's history. The most amazing part of Coach Ryan's appointment as the head coach of the university's women's basketball program was that she was right out of graduate school at the University of Virginia and was only 24 years old the day she became head coach. In fact, she was only a few years older than most of her players. In her first year as head coach, she finished with a record of 8 wins and 17 losses. But losing seasons in women's basketball at the University of Virginia under Coach Ryan quickly became a thing of the past. Winning became the future. Coach Ryan served as the head coach at Virginia for 34 seasons, retiring from her position after the 2008 to 2009 season. During her tenure as the women's coach at UVA, she became a true force in women's basketball, as did her teams throughout her tenure. Some of her coaching highlights include winning over 700 games. She remains one of only 9 coaches in the history of NCAA Division I women's basketball who has won over 700 games. Her teams have made 24 NCAA tournaments, including 3 straight Final Fours from 1990 to 92. Virginia also made 12 Sweet 16s under Coach Ryan, including 11 straight years from 1987 to 1997. One of her teams, the 1990 to 91 team, not only reached the Final Four, but made it into the NCAA championship game played in New Orleans, Louisiana that year. Virginia lost a hard-fought 70-67 overtime game at the hands of a national power in the University of Tennessee Lady Vols and their famous coach, Pat Summitt. The most valuable player of the tournament was on Coach Ryan's team. Her name is Dawn Staley, who is currently in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame and serves as the head coach of the University of South Carolina. In fact, Coach Ryan's influence in women's basketball continues to stretch far and wide, even to this day. As mentioned, former player Dawn Staley is the head coach at the University of South Carolina. Former player Audra Smith is the head coach at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Former player Tanya Cardoza is currently the head coach at Temple University. And a household name in women's basketball, Gino Auriemma, the head coach at Women's Basketball Power at the University of Connecticut, who served as an assistant coach for 2 seasons at the University of Virginia under Coach Debbie Ryan.
Coach Ryan's career record is 736 and 323, and her teams have won 20 or more games in a season 23 times. Coach Ryan was inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in 2008. She's won 11 regular season conference championships and 3 ACC tournament titles. She earned ACC Coach of the Year 7 times and was named the James Naismith Women's Basketball National Coach of the Year in 1991. Ryan also served as a head coach for U.S. basketball 6 times. In the year 2000, Coach Ryan was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. At the time, her prognosis for survival was grim, and her battle to overcome this terrible disease would be great. Debbie Ryan's greatness goes beyond the basketball court, as she continues to be a cancer survivor and an inspiration to all other cancer survivors who may know of this remarkable woman and coach. At the end of the 2010-2011 season, Coach Ryan retired from her position after 34 years as the head women's basketball coach at the University of Virginia, and left an amazing legacy as one of the winningest coaches in the history of NCAA women's basketball. Upon the announcement of Coach Ryan's retirement, the Lady Vols head coach Pat Summitt stated, "Debbie Ryan is a truly remarkable person and someone I consider to be one of my best friends in the coaching profession. Some of the biggest games in both of our careers were played out on the court when the Lady Vols faced the Cavaliers." University of Virginia President Teresa Sullivan stated that Debbie Ryan is an iconic figure in women's basketball. "I first became aware of her and her influence on the sport while I was at the University of Texas, Austin. After arriving in Charlottesville, I soon learned that she's also an icon in the fight against cancer. Debbie exhibited the same courage and determination in leading the university's young women on the court as she did in her own struggle with cancer." The University of Virginia Director of Athletics, Craig Littlepage, stated, "Throughout her 36 years at the University of Virginia, Debbie Ryan has been the model for dignity, dedication, class, and courage. No one has a greater love for the University of Virginia, and I am grateful for all her contributions to our women's basketball program and our department. In addition to her contributions to the game nationally, her impact has been felt on the international basketball scene as well. Coach Ryan's influences touch our school on a local level too. While at the University of Virginia, she coached Val Ackerman, who was recently appointed the commissioner of the newly realigned Big East Athletic Conference and is a 2008 inductee into the Hopewell Valley Central High School Distinguished Graduates Hall of Fame. And Coach Ryan is the sister of Patrick Ryan, who is the president of our local Hopewell Valley Community Bank and a 2005 inductee into our Distinguished Graduates Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Coach Debbie Ryan, on your induction into the Hopewell Valley Central High School Distinguished Graduates Hall of Fame."
Mr. Duer kindly reminded me that I may need to lower the microphone. Once a principal, always a principal. First thing I'd like to do is actually thank Mr. Duer and the committee for inducting me and honoring me in this way. I also want to recognize Michael and Jill. They are extraordinary people, and Michael, I think you're an amazing public speaker. How did that happen? There was an awful lot said about me today, and but I'll be honest with you, I'm just like you sitting in this room right now. I wasn't any different. I couldn't wait to get to whatever was next. We didn't have cell phones, computers, anything like that when I went to school here, but we had a lot of friends and we had stuff going on, and I just passed my locker, and I bet that mouse that lived in there for 4 years is still there. You know, my career started at about the age of 7 or 8 when I brought home a report card that had things like D's for respects authority and shows courtesy. So I was civilly disobedient from the time I was very young, and my brother couldn't stand it, my brother Patrick, who was an amazing influence on my life throughout my life, and he's on the wall out there already, and deservedly so, because he was by far the most intelligent person in our family. So I thought today about how I might talk to you. And I thought what I would do is I would tell you 3 of the most important things I've learned over time. Some of them I learned right here at good old Hopewell. Some of them I learned in college, some of them I learned coaching women's basketball, and some of them I just learned by accident. But the 3 most important things, number 1, Dr. Jill definitely talked about this a little bit. Find something that you are truly passionate about and do it, no matter how much you're going to get paid. Michael, Jill, and Annette all did this. And I want to also say congratulations to Patricia Compton, who is sitting here in the auditorium right now, because Annette can't be here with us right now. But I know that they found their passion. Michael as a chef, Jill as an incredibly amazing doctor, and Annette as the most diverse person of all of us. She did everything. But I want to spend a minute on this because Annette can't be here to talk for herself. I noticed that she had E.F. Hutton for 4 years on her resume. But I'm like, what on earth is that doing on here? She's an author. She's someone who published. She's someone who did all these incredibly creative, artistic things, and she's at E.F. Hutton? Well, my thought was, she probably got a little resistance about what she was doing, and she had to make a living. So she went to E.F. Hutton, but she didn't stay there long, because she knew what her passion was. She knew she had to follow her heart. She knew she had to be who she was. And she didn't settle because someone else had a different plan for her. And that's what I'm going to tell you today. Don't settle. Don't settle because somebody else, regardless of who it is, has a different plan for you. And if you hear those voices in your ear about, that's not good enough, that's not going to make any money, I'm here to tell you, that doesn't matter. When I started off in women's basketball, we didn't even have uniforms. Here. We had these tunic things. Try doing a between the legs dribble with a tunic on. I'm serious. We used to have to take the boys' old warm-up jackets because we didn't have any warm-up jackets. So we would go in their closet and take whatever they weren't wearing that year, and that's what we would wear. We played our games at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we were told, nobody comes to your games. Well, who's going to come at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Our parents work. So that's number one. Find something you're passionate about and do it, regardless of how much you get paid. Nobody thought I was going to get paid in women's basketball. My father said, you don't need to do that. Don't do that. It's going nowhere. My first job, I made $10,000. $10,000. I went into the AD and I said, I demand to be paid properly. Everybody else here makes far more than I do because they listed it in the newspaper, which made it even worse. He said to me, get out of my office, learn to win, and then I'll pay you. I said, oh, okay. So the moral of the story is, I made a whole lot more money as I got further and further along, but I didn't care because I did something that I loved. And even if they didn't pay me at all, it wouldn't have mattered. Just as Dr. Jill shows you today. These are incredible people up here, incredible people who followed their hearts, who took a risk, and that's number two. Be a risk taker, and not in the wrong way. I don't mean be a risk taker where you get into a car with a drunk driver. I mean be a risk taker to be strong enough not to get in that car and maybe lose that person as a friend. That's a risk taker. And never be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how we learn. We learn by making mistakes, and I'm not kidding. So when you go to take that AP physics test today, and your teacher is all, you know, you got to get an A, whatever, and you're like, Coach Ryan just told us, make mistakes, it's how we learn. But it's true. Think about it. When you're a 2-year-old, you touch a stove, or you climb up on something and you fall off and you bang your head and you go get stitches, but you learn. You immediately know not to touch the stove, and either I gotta hold on tighter when I climb up there, or I don't let go. But when you get to be 4, these little voices come into your head. Mom, dad, teachers, all these people start to try to take away what makes you you, and I do mean that. They try to take it away. They try to make you less of a risk taker because they warn you. They warn you not to climb up there. They warn you not to get bad grades. They warn you. Well, I got a perfect example. Look at Michael. Look at Michael. He did okay. I did okay. I told you my brother was the smart one in our family. So when you're 4 years old, they chip away at your confidence about who you are. They don't mean to. It's not deliberate. It's just kind of what happens. It happens on every level because you start to worry about things you don't need to worry about. The most successful people never lose their spontaneity. They never lose that creativity. They don't let anybody take away what makes them magic. So all I'm telling you is to be brave and take a chance. Get out of your comfort zone. You don't think Michael and Annette had resistance in their lives? They had resistance. But you know, when I think about Annette and the fact that she wrote a book by the name of Drawing from the Mind, Painting from the Heart, man, that's something. And a child's book, God's Paintbrush, that's amazing, absolutely amazing. And when you think about Jill in Rwanda, giving all those disfigured kids back a life where they can be proud and they can stand up tall and they can feel like they are worthy. To me, that's a gift that keeps on giving. The last thing I'm going to tell you, and I learned this from cancer, and if you can learn this now, I guarantee you that nobody can stop you. I didn't learn it till much later in life, and that is stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. What does that mean? Most of you can't do it. Most of you are sitting in here right now going, I wonder when this is going to be over. I'm hungry. I need to get a snack. I need to get to my test. I need to go study. I need to go get ready for the game today. But staying in the moment is being in the right now, because there's only regret in the past and there's anxiety in the future. Think about it. Those of you that are thinking about that physics test, you're getting a little anxious. There's a little thing in your stomach starting to build a little bit now. I'm telling you, there's nothing when you just sit here and listen to what I'm saying. So stay in the moment. What's exciting about it is that every idea you have, even at this time of your life, is worthy of exploring and nurturing. Your vision for yourself will morph into many things over the years, but that's what makes it so cool. Don't get caught up in other people's vision for you. Hang on to what makes you unique, and hang on for dear life to your magic. Now, when you walk into that classroom today and your teacher asks you a question and you were off somewhere, you can just tell them, I was hanging on to my magic. Let that creative being inside of you out and have the courage to follow your heart. So, find something passionate about and do it. You will be remembered not by what you made, but by what you gave. Dr. Jill is an example of that. Be a risk taker and go ahead and make mistakes. Just don't make the same mistake twice. They're the most successful people. And stay in the moment. Stay hungry, stay foolish. That was something Steve Jobs said, and all he meant by that was keep your zest for life and never give up on your spontaneity. And this is my best thing right now. Always be proud to be a Hopewell Bulldog.